roughly conforms to Prochaska and DiClemente's trans-theoretical model, or stages of change for people who prefer English. This is one of the prominent behavior change models being taught primarily to health educators, and like all good models, it actually proves with extreme reliability what we laymen might call common sense. It suggests that before people start thinking about making a change, they are in a state of pre-contemplation. Something triggers contemplation of a desired behavior, and the individual wrestles with the pros and cons of adopting the desired behavior, then prepares for successful adoption, takes the recommended action, and finally enters a state of maintenance, where the potential for relapsing to the previous behavior is greatly diminished. Within each of these stages are various processes of change that can help accelerate movement toward the desired behavior. This is powerful stuff, and when it's leveraged in wicked cool creative, it can do wonderful things for your response rates. We're almost done with the sciencey stuff, but first, let's get a little deeper between the ears of a potential customer. I promise to make this quick so you don't start feeling like you're in that dream where you show up to class only to find out you missed the whole semester and it's the final exam. But this can be pretty cool stuff if you work it right. And for this next bit, you can substitute yourself for the young lady on the screen, because this is the thought process you go through for every non-impulse purchase you make, either consciously or subconsciously. The first hurdle we have to clear is whether the product will make life better, for me and for those who share the environment where this purchase will live. If the answer is no, then no sale. However, if the answer is yes, there's still no sale, just another question. Do others I respect think that this product is right for them? We all look for reviews and user comments for things we're thinking about buying. If we think people will think less of us for buying or recommending a product, then no sale. There are a whole host of other things going on in our heads as we progress through a variety of intellectual and emotional arguments to determine whether we ultimately recommend or buy. If all of the stars align, we become customers. No wonder traditional advertisers and marketers have embraced the notions of low response rates are commonplace, and we'll make it up in volume. When we're fighting individual battles between a whole lot of ears, what choice do we have? I believe there are some important things we can and should do. Let's start by examining the marketing mix and approach, then we'll tackle messaging. In this section, we're going to walk through a sample scenario using a basic lead flow model we've been working on. This is directional for illustrative purposes only, so please enjoy it responsibly. Although our example is B2B in nature, the model holds regardless of the product being marketed, even though the actual numbers might vary significantly. We start with a basic set of lead generation tactics, including print and online advertising, a couple of PR initiatives, some direct postal and email, promotional offers for our other tactics, and a trade show, a couple of forays into social media penetration, some basic search engine optimization techniques, and a decent pay-per-click SEM buy. People who raise their hands have the option of doing so through one of 3 lead identification vehicles, as appropriate for the particular lead gen tactic. They can either fill out and send in a business reply card, call a 1-800 number, or visit us online, where they'll be greeted by a registration form in return for the offer. Completed forms are funneled to the lead qualification vendor, generally a trained outbound telemarketing firm whose main objective is to get identified leads to answer the supreme question, are you ready to buy? If no, off to the lead wasteland. If yes, the lead is now a prospect and is transferred into the sales process, where meetings are conducted, proposals are written, and contracts are won, resulting in a bevy of new customers. Sorry in advance for the tiny type, but let's apply some numbers to the flow. The numbers are based on industry averages as well as our experiences running typical campaigns. I won't dwell on them, but by and large, the lowest cost per impression comes from advertising, and the best conversions come from direct marketing and SEM activities. Overall, this spend results in more than 52,000 inquiries at an average cost of just over $36 per inquiry. As we move into lead identification, the majority of inquiries funnel through the website, which is good because the web is by far the most cost-effective lead identification channel. This step nets us 31,415 leads for $61.17 per lead. That includes the cost of inquiry. Our outbound qualification initiatives determine that only a shade over 15% of the leads are ready to buy. That's 4,771 buyers at an overall cost per buyer of $467.89, which doesn't include the cost of the sales process, but isn't a terrible number on a $10,000 average sale. Of course, we also just sent 26,644 hardy souls off to the lead wasteland, which is just more than half of everyone who initially raised their hands. When we pour the numbers into the marketing funnel, here's what we get. Less than 0.5% of the total impressions raised their hands. Of those, a little over 9% were deemed qualified leads. If we run the sales process numbers through our original optimistic model, we find ourselves writing 477 contracts. As Maxwell Smart would say, we missed our revenue target by that much. Okay, would you believe that much? Still, when you look at the expense line, our initiatives are returning $1.14 for every dollar put in, and marketing initiatives alone aren't responsible for hitting the entire nut, and, well, let the caveats fly. So, the CEO pulls us into her office and, for the purposes of our example, doesn't fire us. Instead, she offers us a heart-healthy bran muffin and tells us we have the same revenue target as last year, but we need to shave 10% out of the marketing budget. And to save even more, she left the raisins out of the muffin. Okay, let's see how a marketing mix linked to the buying cycle might help us pull that off. First, we're going to mix up our lead gen tactics a bit, putting more into electronic media and focusing our messaging more heavily on telling stories that appeal to learners, shoppers, and buyers. This should improve our overall cost per impression and help more hand raisers understand that they can reach out to us without fear of being hounded by salespeople. We'll also collapse the lead identification and qualification processes into a single channel, a smart landing page. People ready to buy can always call for a meeting, but everyone else, including a lot of shoppers and buyers, can visit us online, so we can quickly figure out where they are in their consideration process and put them in front of the right next information. Some of those folks will be ready to buy, so we'll send them directly to sales. A majority of the hand raisers, of course, won't be ready to buy, so instead of sending them to the lead wasteland, we're going to nurture those leads with an awesome customized online experience. Not just a website, because most of those are totally focused on brand building and other us-centric things, but an engaging, interactive experience specifically designed to move visitors confidently through the consideration process. And since the process will most likely require more than one visit, our follow-up materials should be tailored based on their previous experiences, as well as helping them understand the right next things to think about or do. Along the way, more and more folks will be ready to buy, and when they are, we'll pass them to sales with a robust profile and recommendations for how to tailor the rest of the process to make life easiest for the prospect. Future customer. When we look at the numbers, even though the lead gen spend is down by about 15%, the inquiries go way up thanks to a mix that focuses more on electronic media, so click-throughs are easier and can be more readily positioned and segmented to attract learners, shoppers, and buyers. Cost per inquiry drops a penny to 15 cents, and the conversion rate jumps to just over 1%, our target rate from the original funnel model. One other note, in this model we've cut the trade show and used those savings to support the lead nurturing activities. The vast majority of inquiries now go to the Smart Landing Page, which cuts the cost per lead by 43%. The Smart Landing Page also gets the relationship off on the right foot, since we can begin tailoring information to fit their needs from the very first click. We'll also quickly know who's ready for the sales process, in this model nearly 23%, and who still needs some nurturing. Even though there's a healthy investment up front in creating the lead generation experience, the payoff lies in helping people become buyers. As long as we keep providing the right information at the right time in the right way, we'll sustain relationships and intelligently send people who are ready to buy into the sales process. This attention to relationships and helping people buy results in an additional 17,000 plus prospects in this model, for a total of nearly 32,000 prospects ready for the sales process. The average cost per buyer overall is $63.16, with those moving through the lead nurturing process coming in at just under $116 per buyer. Here's how the two approaches compare. By widening the funnel to take care of folks who've made contact but aren't ready to buy, some very interesting things happen. It all starts, of course, with making the initial lead generation mix more learner, shopper, buyer focused, and more highly concentrated on measurable tactics that can drive online traffic at a lower cost per lead. That results in twice as many raised hands. Awareness is still absolutely critical, but so is creating advertising, marketing, and promotion initiatives that make it easy for people to respond and get into our funnel. The added nurturing initiatives create the definitive separation between these approaches. When you're getting better than 6 times the meetings, even if your close rates stay the same, you're blowing your revenue targets away. Expense-wise, we've trimmed our 10% and still managed to increase our ROI to just under $15 for every dollar spent, while decreasing the cost per meeting obtained by over $800.